Welcome to the Triple P podcast, Preds, Pucks, Pinoys, hosted by Justin Bradford and Matt Best.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Triple P, Preds, Pucks, Pinoys, Justin Bradford and Matt Best. And hey, special episode because we have so much hockey talk coming up later this week.
Oh boy.
Yeah, and this was requested by a good bit of you to get our take on Loki. I mean, now that it has been out for a full week, the season finale, I feel like we can talk about that. So if you haven't already seen it, or if you plan on watching it and you don't want anything spoiled, you just need to pause this, like this, favorite this, save this episode,
download it.
Yeah, download it to where after you can listen to it after you've watched Loki. It's only 6 episodes, about 45 minutes in each episode, so you can plow through it if you really want to. But I will say, I enjoy being able to watch every episode and having a week to digest it and talk about it and come up with theories and things like that. That's what makes it fun. But Matt, it's our time now to discuss Loki. And first of all, I just wanted to bring this up too. I know it's recency bias. I think this is my favorite because of how it's going to tie in and change the Marvel Universe forever and what it will do to future movies and television shows. Whereas WandaVision was great at setting up future films and exploring the whole mental health storyline. Captain America and the Winter Soldier, previously Falcon and Winter Soldier, obviously setting things up more for for future leadership in the Avengers, and also great for representation and the importance of self-reflection and coming to realize one's self-worth. And we see that a little bit in Loki as well too. But Loki changes so many things, and Loki's obviously been a fan favorite for so many Marvel fans since the beginning with Thor. And the Avengers as well too. So I was just very curious to see this. It was definitely my favorite TV series so far of the 3, just because of the implications it had and the comedy in it, the seriousness of it. Tom Hiddleston's fantastic. The coming back of Owen Wilson into the sphere.
So good.
So your take overall, because you know me, I'm going to do some deep diving.
Oh yeah.
So
I'll give you like the
Go for it.
generic fan perspective without all of the nice morals that'll make me think. Honestly, when you look at the MCU and all the characters played, I think Tom Hiddleston does the best job out of anybody in terms of acting. Like you look around the MCU and like Chris Pratt's fun as Star-Lord. You look elsewhere and everyone's just good. Everyone like plays their role well, and you look at it. Robert Downey Jr. obviously is up there too. Like obviously he is top 2, top 3. Can't go leave him out. And I think Tom Hiddleston and Loki needs to be held in that same regard of Robert Downey Jr. played Iron Man the best and nobody else could do it. I don't think anybody else could play Loki the way Tom Hiddleston does. From like his running, the way he runs is very Loki-like and very Tom Hiddleston-like. The facial expressions, the accent you can probably find on anybody of the same background, but I don't think you can throw Joe Blow in there and have a successful series. I also really like with Loki.
But you could throw an alligator in.
You could throw an alligator in, and I'd be very happy with that. If there's no alligator in season 2, I'm going to be pissed. I think the one thing that really stood out to me about Loki is that there was no like buttoned up ending like we saw in the other 2 series so far. And it's not that I don't like a happy ending. It's that when I like a show and I want more, I need my cliffhangers. And the cliffhanger towards the cliffhanger that happened was incredible. It sets up so much that I'm sure you're going to touch upon. But this one was just, if we're rating the first 3, WandaVision got about a 7 from me. Like, when I first saw it, I gave it a higher rating. Falcon Winter Soldier, give it another 7. Loki gets like a 9.5. It was near perfect. I wasn't in love with the finale, to be quite honest. And the flack that I give it is, I just wanted a little bit more action. Because I think the action scenes in Loki were just so well done.
They're
that
fun.
I just wanted more of that, greedily. Like, I understand the purpose of needing all the dialogue in this episode to set up everything else, but I just wanted maybe 1 or 2 more fight scenes. I don't know how you could mix it in, but that's what I would have wanted. Overall, this is the one series where, like, right after I finished the finale, I jumped onto Google and was like, hey, when is season 2? I need this right now kind of thing. Whereas the other 2 series, I was like, yeah, it was all right. It was good. This one definitely has me the most hyped up to talk about, though. I don't think we could have really done a full episode of hey, let's talk WandaVision and be this amped up about it, because Loki was just so much more fun. I think the general consensus, I mean, we got way more questions about this, and like this show is happening now because people liked Loki that much. And God bless Kyle for sending me Owen Wilson memes almost every day. There was one about jet skis today that he sent me, and I almost pissed my pants.
Wow.
Just what a great show.
Wow.
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 Wow. Okay. First of all, the music. Before I really get into plots and stuff like that, the music was fantastic. Natalie Holt. This is basically, I would say, her first major production. I mean, she's composed other things for TV and for movies and film. And if you look at her Wikipedia and you look at her IMDb, yeah, you'll probably recognize a couple of those things. But this, in terms of the audience and the reach, is by far the biggest. I mean, Disney Plus came out that Loki is 2.5 million households.
Holy hell.
That's big, especially for streaming. That's huge, and that means even more viewers, way more viewers. We're talking millions and millions of people are watching this program. But Natalie Holt, first of all, I'm hashtag blessed because she follows me on Twitter.
Nice. I'm gonna go to her Twitter as we're talking.
Her Twitter, you can tell she's very into it and promoting the episodes and everything too, and loving the fan feedback that she's getting. But what I really like about the music, and the reason I started with the music, because the music, especially in Marvel and in any movie where you have science fiction, fantasy, and themes, things like that. You think Star Wars, you think characters have their themes, right? You go to like, anything that John Williams has scored has their themes and really well-known themes. Characters have their own themes. Well, Marvel's the very same way, where characters have their themes. And the theming in this was eerie, driving, and on time. And for the reason I say that is because you hear the driving beat of the tick, 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 tick in the back. Even if it's not there, you hear from other instruments, it's the driving beat of time. And you could see or hear little implications of that throughout all of the parts of the score, building up and setting up certain moments as well when things are going to happen. And now I say this, Matt, I can see the gears turning in your head, because you're like, oh, wait.
It makes sense.
Yeah, it makes you start thinking.
2 episodes ago, not the finale, but the one before it, I was over at my buddy Mike's house, and him and his girlfriend and I watched Loki, and they had the sound cranked. Like, soundbar cranked, speakers cranked, TV cranked, everything just going. And not only for the score, but for the episode as a whole. And I was like, okay, I should have really watched and listened to everything with the volume a little louder than what I've been listening to. Because, like, it's not that I don't like super loud things, but it's just, I feel like the appreciation was just way more there for me in the final 2 episodes, because I just had the MF cranked.
Oh, yeah. And you hear the theming of it. You hear the TVA theme. You hear the different themes when things are going on and setting up different moments that are going to happen. And that's what I loved about this so much. And I will say, I know I'm jumping around here too, but it was really neat in the second to last episode when old Loki, or classic Loki, is building his illusion in front of Alioth to distract Alioth, that you hear the tones of Flight of the Valkyrie, which he's building Asgard, and Valkyries were protectors of Asgard and everything too. So you the little themings of the notches there too, plus some of the way they put in some modern music tones as well. The same thing like we'll have with the Black Widow, seeing some modern music kind of mixed in and make it eerie and creepy. Start off with music because it just sets the tone. This is different. Time runs differently, but you hear that tick, 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 tick moving of the metronome so much in this because everything's dealing with time. What I enjoy the most about this is that we get more of Loki's development and we see the want, because we have to remember this all starts out in 2012 Loki with Avengers Loki.
I constantly have to remind myself of that.
He hasn't been through Ragnarok. He hasn't been through
like he's not
all that
his
stuff.
brother's buddy right now. Like,
right.
I need to remember that all the time. Because sometimes I'm watching, I'm like, why are you being a piece of shit right now? And I'm like, oh, right. You don't know any better yet.
Still a dick.
Yeah.
But we see the character progression in just 6 episodes that, with everything you experience with Mobius and with Sylvie, you see the growth of Loki as a character and the want to, as we saw in the scene with Sif, Lady Sif, thank God Lady Sif was finally made an appearance again, that there's the want to not be alone, and that is the fear. To be alone, to not be wanted, to not be recognized. and that they're doomed to fail. Just like and so we talk about the self-reflection in all the Marvel shows and how they do have themes for what you learn about these characters, and how WandaVision was about mental health and dealing with grief. And in Falcon and Winter Soldier, it was a representation and knowing your self-worth and coming into your own, a growth story as well. And so many things behind that, and why that was absolutely important too, to see what that has done for people watching Marvel. And now Loki, it's again self-worth, depression, the feeling of being alone, knowing that there are other people that can be out there for you, the feeling of belonging as well. I mean, shoot, the feeling of belonging created a freaking Nexus event. Granted, I mean, of course, Loki's gonna fall in love with himself.
But some narcissist stuff, yeah.
It is, but and that's what Loki is. But that's what you see in terms of the development of this character, that in one episode sees the entire progression of his life, from his mom's death to Ragnarok to himself being killed by Thanos.
Yeah.
And you see that progression there to make the realization come to, that he realizes that what he does do is for attention, and to do, he's not like he wants to hurt people, he does that so he can get attention. And you think about it, how that can relate just to humans, right? How many people project for attention, and it's not that they mean to do it, it's not that they want to do it, that's how they are.
Oh god, so many people, and especially because of like social media now too. It's
right.
Come look at me, I'm on Twitter and I'm trying to be this different persona, but if you have a conversation, come have a beer with me, I'm a way different person. Like, how many people do you follow on social media outlets that you also know in real life, and you're like, you're not like that, what are you doing here?
Plenty.
Yeah, like I mean, it doesn't really harm the people that I follow, at least, and I'm sure the same people you follow, because I'd like to think that our circles are filled with the same kinds of people. But yes, at the end of the day, you just look at it and you go, you're not really that person. And yeah, you can have your internet persona, that's fine, just as long as your internet persona isn't being an asshole, then that's all fine and dandy. But yeah, no, I see, you make me think deep about this kind of stuff with Marvel, instead of just I like the action.
So, and I'm progressing through the discussion here, obviously, just naturally and everything too. So we see that development of himself as a character, and by being exposed to Sylvie, and what Sylvie dealt with, she was taken away as a child, and so she's been hell-bent on taking down the TVA from the time that she was taken away, and then she escaped. Other themes in here too that are connecting the bigger things of the universe. We have Ravonna Renslayer, who has in the past in the comics been a lover of Kang the Conqueror, which we'll get to that. There's going to be future parts there, and we all see that little tease in the last episode as well, that she was a principal of that high school, that the pen that Mobius used to sign the document was, and he didn't recognize that. So there's those little Easter eggs there too of the pen. So many things when he's at the end of time, basically, in all the little Easter eggs of the ships. One, we get the Thanos helicopter.
That was cool.
Seeing the Thanos helicopter, we saw the ship that Red Skull gets away in Captain America, the first Avenger. We see the Kree ship that we see in Captain Marvel and the Guardians of the Galaxy. We see Avengers Tower, but a slightly different look. We see so many different things. It is fantastic to see all those things there too. So all those Easter eggs are fun. Then there's so many things that I want to bring up, so I'm just kind of plowing through here too. But let's get to the final episode, because I think that's where most people are wanting to talk now, because we see everything as a whole. So the dialogue is something that I enjoyed because it was setting up so much. And I know, I see it too, so you're not the only one that felt a little disappointed in lack of action. There are a lot of people that were. But maybe after talking through it, it'd be like, okay, even more so, makes me think, right? He Who Remains, well, first of all, they're walking into that building, and Miss Minutes pops up. It's 2:30 in the morning, and I let out, oh shit!
Yeah, it's the most.
He made me jump.
It was the most eerie thing too. Not only was it like a minor jump scare, it was also like, that doesn't fit well with this scenario, right? Like,
hey y'all! I mean, even the characters jump. It's like, shit.
That's just like when you go out and you're hanging out with friends, and at like 3 o'clock in the morning, there's this one person who's still just way too excited to be alive, and it's like, why don't you just calm down? Because that's what, it's too much. I love Miss Minutes
throughout. Miss Minutes has been in with that.
Yeah,
I mean, she's been in the know about the whole thing, and she was already sus.
Oh yeah,
she was already 100%. Sus from the first time. She was totally sus. So they get in there, and it's He Who Remains, and you see there's so many different little calls to who he actually is, or could be, or is a variant of. So I've seen so many different things saying that's Kang the Conqueror. Well, yeah, kind of. It's the person that would be Kang in a different variant form. Most people, I think, agree that that is more closely related to Immortus, which is a version of the same person. And so this is where it gets really choppy and confusing, folks. Is that Kang, Immortus, gosh, I'm trying to think through all the different names that the person goes by. Nathaniel Richards. Who else? I already said Kang. Ramatut. I mean, there's so many different things in terms of variants that the guy goes through, and the actor is Jonathan Majors, who we know is going to be in Ant-Man, the next Ant-Man movie.
Mm-hmm. I just looked him up to find out his name. He did so well in that episode.
He did so well.
Like, he made me laugh. He made me think. He just played the role so well.
He played the role of Immortus very well too, and that's who I think, because of the costuming for him was most closely related to what Immortus was naturally and classically wearing as well. So we know that he was basically given the warning of what's to come if you kill him, and Sylvie still killed him. We saw him trying to split apart Sylvie and Loki, and that's why the whole dialogue was important, because there's so many little Easter eggs in there. I can't touch on all of them or even remember all of them. You just kind of start thinking through what everything means, because he's planting all these seeds for how this next phase in Marvel is just going to explode. Mm-hmm. And we already knew it was going to when you see the titles for Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, and you see Ant-Man, Quantum Mania, Spider-Man, No Way Home. All these things are going to be connected and in some form or fashion, and this is blowing things up. So that is why after this happened and this reveal happened, and especially once we saw the final scene before the scene where it says announcing season 2, and it is Mobius not recognizing Loki.
It made me so sad, but like
the look on Loki's face,
yeah,
how it dropped, the oh shit moment, and then looking, you see Kang the Conqueror's statue, and he's staring at that as they fade away. That Twitter, the geeks that I follow, and all the people I know were watching, were texting ourselves, and here's my one F-bomb, just as a warning. Holy shit, they fucking did it. Because it changes Marvel forever. It is no longer the MCU.
Mm-hmm.
It is the MCM. Because everything now can happen. And we knew this was eventually going to get to it. We just didn't know how they were going to introduce the multiverse, because they were setting up so much stuff from WandaVision, set it up with what she's doing and reading the Darkhold, and what's going to happen with her and Doctor Strange, where she could potentially be a villain, where she's trying to find her children as variants in a different universe. We see how it happened here, and there's multiple variants, all of these different Lokis. That we saw Throg, saw the frog version of Thor in a jar. I mean, we see so many things that opens it up to where they won't necessarily have to have actors locked up in long-term contracts either too. It sets it up to where you can explore different storylines yet still be within Marvel. So they're going to have continuity without continuity.
Yeah.
It gives them opportunities to explore, but it also creates a great big bad in Kang, because Kang is so powerful that he controls time. Meaning they can rewind, they can fast forward, they can explore so many different aspects of characters that it is setting up to where you truly do wonder now, well, how the hell are the Avengers going to take care of this dude now?
Yeah, they set it up that there's when Endgame happened, I think everyone went, well, that's it. That's pretty much.
What are they going to do next? How do you do big bad?
And then now it's like, well, you thought one universe was enough. How about we just expand this? Like, how this is going to stretch well beyond us, like probably doing a podcast, because they opened it up for years and years and years. When did the first Avengers movie come out?
The Avengers 1 was 2012.
And then Endgame was 18, I think?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's a solid 6 years.
19.
19, so it's a solid 7 years.
2019, yeah.
This will go, until at least 2030 probably?
This phase, the next 3 phases, for like the next 7-8 years.
Yeah, that's ridiculous. And
you see all the new characters we're getting introduced to, too. I mean, Shang-Chi coming out soon. So that's a new character being added to the Marvel Universe. We know that they're really going to explore more with Captain Marvel and Photon as well, adding them. They're probably
more Captain Marvel.
We're probably set up the Young Avengers as well. And we also know, based on Black Widow and Falcon and Winter Soldier, that they're setting something up with Val. It's setting up whether a type of anti-hero type of thing. So, we're going to see more of Black Widow's sister as well, and Florence Pugh. So there are so many other characters that they're setting up now. And you think we only had 8 years of 8, 9, 10 years of development from Iron Man 1. From Iron Man 1 to Endgame, had a decade of development. Think about all the characters we got introduced to in that decade. And now it's going to happen again, but you're going to keep a bunch of them and add on.
And you're going to add probably way more.
Way more because all the TV series.
Exactly. All the TV series will lead to your Mobiuses and friends and people that like you and I will fall in love with, right?
We're getting She-Hulk. We know we're getting a new Hawkeye as well. We're getting so many different things that are coming up. But what's so exciting is that this opened up so many things. That's why I loved the season finale of this, was because of the implications at hand. Yes, the end of WandaVision had implications because how it directly relates to future movies and Wanda becoming Scarlet Witch, and Falcon and Winter Soldier with the new Captain America being introduced. We know there's going to be a Captain America 4 with Sam as Captain America, and there's going to be some storyline there too. But there weren't implications necessarily. There are implications in terms of how Sam's going to continue to deal with being a black Captain America, which we know is going to create its own thing. But looking at the entire universe as a whole, this changed everything. It changed everything in what Kevin Feige has been building up to now, and knowing that they can pull this off. They're pulling this off. I mean, you think 10 years ago would they ever thought that they're going to have a multiverse? We're going to explore a multiverse in Marvel Comics. I mean, shit gets weird when they introduce a multiverse. I mean, we saw freaking the alligator Loki.
I think like the whole concept of turning back time is basically what unlocked the multiverse idea. Yeah. Because they're like, oh, people like that? We can be cheesy with this and make a lot of money of just wind back the clock and change the events that have happened. Why don't we do that on a grand scale multiple times and make a ton of money that way? It's smart. Like, it's just smart marketing.
I could turn back time,
especially
if I could find my way.
Oh, higher.
No. So it's when I look at the whole breadth of Loki, because I actually just rewatched it with my girlfriend because she hadn't been able to watch it yet, and I was like, look, if you're gonna keep going to Marvel movies with me, you have to watch Loki. She's pretty much caught up until that point. I was like, you have to, you're gonna be so confused, and I won't be able to explain it without you seeing this. You have to see it develop.
Oh yeah, good luck trying to explain this one. Like, you can explain an Iron Man 1 and Iron Man 2. You can explain a Thor Ragnarok. You can explain all that. Explaining Loki would just be trying to teach like hieroglyphics to someone. That doesn't happen.
It's like the memes where it's like math, and you're trying to put all the strings together.
Yes.
That's exactly what it would be like, is trying to put all this things. You can't just explain that. So some other fan theories, okay? We've talked about Kang and that person, and there's so many more YouTube videos that do a much better job of explaining that. Kang's a Time Lord. We know he's going to be appearing. We know Jonathan Majors is going to continue to be more. I'm so excited to see what he's able to do with the character, because they're going to be different. Each version of Kang or Nathaniel Richards is different in this. So the other one, too, is where is the TVA? We saw in Ant-Man and the Wasp a tiny city in the quantum realm. Some have been theorizing that was the TVA. Others are saying that's Chronopolis. We don't know. It's a city that sits outside of a time in a realm called Limbo, is what Chronopolis is. I'm not sure if that's where the TVA was, because this was all built up by Kang. Everything's by Kang. I mean, we saw the Timekeepers were not a real thing, at least in that matter. They were not a real thing. This is all made up. And time is unique. Like, when we start talking time, it's difficult to put things into play. And we saw in the finale too, we saw the circle. That is just a continuous circle, and every time it got to the end, they just reset, and that's all they were doing with time, is just resetting everything until we got the branches of realities. We just don't know what's going to happen there too. And so I'm very curious to see what's going to happen with time being an endless circle, because they could get themselves into some ruts. And I say that because you have to have continuity without having continuity. That's why Kevin Feige has got this shows the difference between the Marvel and the DC universe, because it's been fully known that
shit.
Well, yeah, but you see continuity and consistency because Kevin Feige make sure to bring all the directors and writers in, and they go over things about continuity. Are there going to be some holes sometimes? Yes, it just happens because there's so much to keep in there. But they explain the continuity and then let the directors do their things, and there's trust built. We haven't seen that in the DC universe because it was so rushed. And I'm not saying I enjoy DC stuff. It's just I think there's so much there that they've just failed on. So I'm excited to see the new Suicide Squad, to see what it's like with James Gunn.
I feel like
involved
DC
now with it.
Took the mantra of we get big name actors and actresses and put it into a movie and everyone will like it. It's like,
and
no.
the Dark Knight series was good. I really liked it, but there's no universe to build around that.
Give
they
me
didn't focus on that then.
So much more of the Dark Knight.
So let's go into some questions that people asked to see about topics here too. This is funny from Kyle. Why someone should be fired because of no jet skis? Mobius deserved better.
That's the kind of thing I love in Marvel. It's just like the little tiny punchlines,
little things
that everyone remembers, and then so many memes are made fun of or made out of it. And just,
by the way, are you old enough to remember Josta soda?
Huh?
The stuff that Mobius was drinking, Josta.
No.
Okay, so
I've never even heard of that.
So do you remember Surge?
Oh yeah, I remember Surge.
Okay, Josta was actually like the first like energy type of drink. It was a Pepsi one. It was high in caffeine and guarana.
It was discontinued in 1999. I was 5.
Yeah, it was one of those things that it was the market is energy drink is what it was. It was high caffeine, like more caffeine than the typical, just like Surge was, but also the guarana root, which is supposed to add different types of natural energy and everything too. Also, they were talking about how there was talks about libido and everything like that with this drink. It didn't last that long, but that's where so this is another little Easter egg then, since you did not pick up on it. I'm glad I'm able to do this for you.
Yeah, because I'm 6 years old.
Well, Mobius was drinking Josta every time. So whether it was in the viewing room or it was when he was eating his lunch, where Mobius poured like coconut water on his salad, that he was drinking a Josta, meaning now that we know they're all variants, and he's talking about jet skis, we know pretty sure that he's from the 90s.
That's cool. I did not put that together.
So since they're all variants, all these variants come from different time periods. And what also supports that too is when they're in Renslayer's room talking, and she talks to him about using a coaster, and he looks down, and this could be something that could be diving too deep into this, or this could be something to latch onto of just a little key that they're all variants. All those little rings that are on the table from him setting his drink down and it sweating, and he's like, these aren't even mine. They've been there. And Renslayer says, well, you made them. Was it a different variant of Mobius that made those rings on the table? Little things like that you pick up on. Also, back to music too with Renslayer, the music with the theremin was pretty neat too. Creepy, eerie. We knew it was just setting up that she is not a good person.
She's pretty badass,
obviously. Yeah. So plus the theremin is just such a unique instrument too, to be able to utilize that. Props to Natalie Holt. So all those little Easter eggs I love. If you are interested in watching for more Easter eggs, go to Screen Crush on YouTube, folks. Ryan Airy puts out great videos on Easter eggs, whether it's on Marvel stuff, Star Wars. So if you're watching Bad Batch, he has little great Easter eggs in there and how they're connecting to Clone Wars and Rebels and even the movies as well, how they all interconnect. But especially for Loki, there's so many Easter eggs. We're talking like 50 plus per episode of little Easter eggs or things you might have missed in every episode.
That's a lot.
Yeah, Screen Crush he's fantastic at putting those things together, and they come out like the day after the episode, so they're really quick turnaround. So lots of Easter eggs. I love this. I loved it. Let's go to the next question here. This one is from Brandon. At this point, are you more excited about the films or the Disney Plus shows? I've enjoyed the weekly ride of the shows more than the slow build up towards a movie release date. That's a fair question.
That's a tough question.
Yeah, you go first, because I've been talking a lot. You go first.
Honestly, I think it has to do with the pandemic as well, that I haven't been to a movie theater in so long. I've enjoyed this week I have this episode to do. I'm glad they don't go, here's 7 episodes, here's 6 episodes for you, go nuts. It gives you that week to rewatch it. It gives you that week to digest it. It gives me a week to ask you, what the hell did I actually need to absorb from that episode? And if you think about it, it's like the length of 3 or 4 movies at the end of the day. One series is. And if you want to go back like on your free time and rewatch it for fun kind of thing, like you would do with the Avengers or like you do with any Iron Man movies, you can do that. Just dedicate a while to it, and then you can find natural pauses at the end of each episode to go do whatever it is you need to do. Honestly, at this point, I'm all aboard the TV show train compared to the movie train. However, it'll take one good Marvel movie for me to go, no, back to the movies. But for now, I'm okay with just the way it's going. But yeah, like I said, the second I go back and go see an IMAX movie or something, ask me then.
Yeah, it's so what I love about the TV shows is, especially when they're 30, 40 minutes long without commercials. I mean, you think about if you're watching an hour-long TV show, you're typically getting 15 minutes of commercials. It's only a 45-minute program anyways.
Yeah.
So it's good to get that straight content right there. And what I love about the TV shows is you're able to do much better character development.
Mm-hmm.
Because you're able to split it up over some time. You're able to split things up in terms of the storyline, which allows you to reset some things, so you don't have to worry about skip aheads. Sometimes in movies, it's all of a sudden 2 days later. Well, you can do that in TV shows sometimes, or it could be the next day or a day later, or it could be back to back, like doing 24 did with Jack Bauer.
Great.
24 hours straight.
What a great show.
Yeah. Love that. Chloe!
So good.
And what I love about the big blockbuster films is budgets. Like, that's what really comes in for me, is because when you see team ups, you're going to get bigger budgets. And what I love about that is big things can happen. Like, we don't typically see on TV shows. And yeah, the TV shows had big budgets, but not much of movies. I mean, Spider-Man, we know we're going to have plenty of things involved, especially if there's potential of Tobey Maguire,
yes,
Garfield being in there. We already know Alfred Molina is already confirmed as Doc Ock. I mean, why are you bringing in Doc Ock when he was previously in a Spider-Man movie in the Sam Raimi movies? So there's that, and Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness has Doctor Strange and Wanda. So I love those team-ups, because I feel like on a TV show sometimes it's difficult to have two big characters involved with just a TV show. Granted, they did pull it off with Falcon and Winter Soldier, but even then it's supposed to be more. Look, we wanted more of that when we knew they had to adjust because of the pandemic and filming and things of that sort too. So I love individual characters being explored more through TV shows, but for some of the team-up things, which happens naturally now with Marvel anyways, because it's always going to be crossover, that I love seeing that in movies. I mean, hell, we look at Captain America and the Winter Soldier, Captain America and the Winter Soldier, where they had Black Widow in there, and he introduced Winter Soldier and Captain America Civil War, and you see all the characters involved in that. That's what I love about that, because you cannot pull that off in a TV show. So it's me with the cop-out answer that I love both, but I think with individual stories, I love the TV series, because you can have 6 episodes, and like you even said, when you run that many episodes together, you're getting a movie, but it's a really long movie.
You're getting like a Lord of the Rings movie kind of thing.
Yeah, long movie, but in a regular movie, now that Marvel's like 2.5 hours long typically for movies, yeah, you're getting something big, and you hope it all interconnects, but you're able to do much bigger stunts and big things that's meant for the big screen, and you have those types of things that you want to go see it in Dolby Digital or IMAX, which just makes it on a much bigger level too. So they, to each their own with that. So I'm excited for both. I'm glad they went this route though, to realize that, hey, they can do really big character development and then plop those characters into movies now after taking the time in TV shows, because now you don't have to worry about an origin story movie for every single character when you can explore that a lot of times in TV series. So for instance, Black Widow, if you go back and let's like retcon everything, Black Widow would have made for a great Disney Plus series if this started, say, 7 years ago.
Yeah.
Spy stuff, all the spy stuff, exploring all those different things. It could even be back in the past of how she got out of the Red Room to go work for S.H.I.E.L.D. I mean, that could be a great super spy type of series. Fortunately, we only just got one movie way after the fact, but that would be great. You think about those types of characters to have the origin story there. Some of those characters deserve that type of origin story. Captain America, I don't think would have been necessarily the best one for origin story, but talking about him replacing the Infinity Stones and how we went through that as a mini series of, say, 8 episodes would be fantastic for TV. Not a movie, not Captain America replaces the Infinity Stones, but how he gets back, and how also that ties into the timekeepers approving that, because that was all approved for him to return the Infinity Stones and not be a Nexus event. So those are the types of things I'd love to explore with TV. Movies, save it for the blockbusters and the team-ups.
Yeah, no, I agree. What characters in the MCU do you think deserve an origin story? That just what you said there had my brain ticking. Like, if you had to give me your top 2, top 3.
I mean, Captain America deserves the origin story. Are you talking about past or future? Or whatever?
Just whatever.
Yeah, I think they did it right in a lot of ways where you have the Captain America and Iron Man because the way they had to build it. I mean, Iron Man wasn't always the central part, but that's what Marvel had, so they went with it.
Yeah.
And look at what Iron Man ended up becoming. Captain America because it's Captain America, and seeing what he was able to do. Those two made the absolute perfect sense. Thor makes sense as well, even though the origin stories for him weren't the best. His best still has been in Avengers, it's in Ragnarok, in team-ups is where I think Thor has shined more.
So much better with people.
Right. And I think they finally realized.
Yeah, it's not a knock on Chris Hemsworth. It's just his character is way more of a like a socialite kind of character compared to just a.
And you're based on Norse mythology.
Yeah,
a lot of that too. So there's certain things in terms of the way they built the character too that just bodes better for being around other things in team ups. So I like what they're doing there. I really would love to see more Hulk.
I want to see a new Hulk, like a new Hulk movie kind of thing.
Yeah, that was like the fudging of the most when it came to actually giving his origin, because his origin wasn't really full MCU.
No, it was. Was it Edward Norton?
Yeah. Edward Norton.
It was that weird ass movie. And I was
that was only a few years after the Eric Bana one.
I remember watching that Edward Norton movie with my dad, and like at the time I was like, wow, it's a really cool superhero movie. And then I think it was a few weeks ago, my dad and I were talking, and he's like, yeah, that movie kind of sucked. Like, looking back at it, it's like, yeah, it truly did. Because I think, honestly, with all these series, my dad's watched every episode before me. And, like, because he's so excited about them.
So get this, though. Like, the Eric Bana Hulk came out in 2003, and then the Edward Norton Hulk came out in 2008.
Yeah.
Only 5 years to try to reboot.
I remember, like, whenever I think of the 2008 Edward, like, Norton Hulk, I can remember, like, the movie posters. The 2003 one, I remember, like, the wasteland in the movie kind of thing, and the desert scene. Like, I remember those things. But the 2008 one, to me, is, like, so not memorable that all I really remember is just the movie poster.
Right, and to think, though, that, like, Thunderbolt has been in all of these. And we're going to get Abomination, which originated in the Hulk. We're going to get Abomination in Shang-Chi. Like, it's crazy to think it's been that long since the first Hulk where we've been wondering, what's happened to Abomination? Well, he's about to appear in another MCU film all of a sudden, out of nowhere. So it's going to be incredible to see how that all plays out and everything, too. Okay, this is the last question here. This is from John. What are your thoughts on the theory that the TVA is in the quantum realm? I'm not sure about that. I know we kind of briefly covered it. I'm not sure that it's in the quantum realm. I still think it exists somewhere that Kang made, and I'm not sure if he did that then. But then again, it would absolutely make sense if they did. Here's the problem that I have, and it's not a problem with MCU or Marvel. It's a problem with me as a fan. No one. Oh, now say no one. In WandaVision, we all shot ourselves in the foot by over-theorizing.
I was about to say, I think it feels like it's too easy.
Right, it's too easy. But then, we didn't have much in Falcon and Winter Soldier because there wasn't much to over-theorize, because you're not dealing with magic or anything like that as much. I mean, you're dealing with a real homegrown type of plot. It was super soldiers, but that's not dealing with magic. Or, the big three, androids, wizards, and, aliens. So it wasn't dealing with those, but then you get into Loki now, and you're dealing with time and stuff like that, and we started theorizing, well, all these little nuggets are laying is obviously for Kang the Conqueror. I mean, dealing with time, Ravonna Renslayer, all these things are just leading up to Kang. You're like, oh, they're really going to introduce the big bad. We know he's coming in Ant-Man, so they're really going to introduce him in Loki, the TV series. Well, by God, they did it. And so we had people like trying to, pump the brakes on the whole Kang thing, and then all of a sudden, yeah, shit, they did it. Oh my god, we weren't expecting this because we kind of learned our lesson from WandaVision. And then some people were pumping their brakes there, but we still kind of fell into that trap of, oh, what, they're really doing Kang. And all of a sudden he appears, or the Immortus version of Kang, like, well, we don't know what to believe. So Marvel is doing a good job of throwing us for a loop. So it could be too easy, or it could be somebody that's really in-depth thinking, and Marvel's like, well, maybe there's this. Because it didn't make sense possibly to introduce another bad in WandaVision instead of just being Wanda. I'm glad they went the way they did.
Yeah.
But they could have done something else if they really wanted to, and they chose not to. Not to say that this obviously was the plan all along with Loki introducing Kang, but that's the problem now is I don't know what to believe, my foil hat or my brain.
For me, I just think it's too easy. And I kind of want to be suckered into believing that there's something bigger instead of like, I love when I guess something right. But after I guess it right, that 1 second of me going, haha, I knew it. After I'm like, damn it, I wish it was something else. Because I was so... I'd rather have the feeling of, holy shit, I didn't expect that, compared to, I got it. And so I just want to be wrong here. Because the whole having the TVA in the quantum realm makes too much sense. But at the end of the day, if that's the way they go, then I'm okay with it. But I want to see some wacky way of it getting there, if that's what it actually is.
Yep, you're right. You're 100% right. So, well, Matt, anything else you want to add to our special edition Loki of PPP?
Kat did ask, why should someone watch the show? And my answer is, just do it.
So, here's my answer to that. If you have not watched any single Marvel
film, God, don't do it.
Don't do it. I know we're answering this at the end of the show, but if you have not watched any MCU film, don't do it. You will be completely lost. And while I understand the excitement to watch it, okay. If, for instance, this is what I would give. If you are curious about watching Loki and you don't necessarily want to dive into the whole MCU thing like we have, to you watch everything and you're fully ingrained in it, this is what I'd suggest you watch. And it's still going to be a lot, but it's nowhere near as much as the whole MCU.
Mm-hmm.
You watch Thor 1. You watch Avengers, the first Avengers in 2012. You watch Thor Dark World, because somehow the MCU is making us have to watch the shitty films right now. They made us watch Age of Ultron for the WandaVision stuff. They've made us watch Thor now, the Dark World, for two things, because they had to reference it so much before in Endgame. And then I would suggest you watch Ragnarok, and then Infinity War. You probably don't even need to watch Endgame necessarily, but I at least suggest it just so you understand what the end is.
Yeah, I don't think you need Infinity or Endgame.
Right. So, and this is just to like realize what everything that's going on. Then I think you could watch Loki and have an understanding. You could probably even you don't have to do Endgame, but you need to at least watch the first few minutes of Infinity War to understand, because that is basically the end of Ragnarok. Those are all the things you need to watch to understand Loki. But it is a well-done show. It's a really well-done show. The acting was great. I loved the casting. Obviously, Tom Hiddleston is fantastic. Sophia DiMartino was incredible as Sylvie. She's so good. And Owen Wilson played his part so well. I really, really did enjoy seeing Owen Wilson getting back into it like that. And I want to see him ride a jet ski now. We need to see that happen sometime, man.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen him ride horses in Shanghai Noon and all those movies before. But now I need to see him ride a jet ski.
And Gugu Mbatha-Raw, she did great as Renslayer. We know we're going to see more of her as well. So there's certain characters we know we're going to see more of in this universe. And I mean, Tara Strong did a great job as Miss Minutes, the voiceover for her. So it was great casting, great music, and it really ties so much together because it leads into so much more. It wasn't like you said, Matt, it's not just ending for the sake of ending. We're going to get a season 2. We don't know when that's going to happen, but you'd expect it's going to happen probably in about, I'd say, at least a year.
I'd say this time next year they announce it with a trailer, and then we get it like early.
It all depends on the movie releases.
Yeah,
like a lot, because they're going to tie it in.
Q1 if we're lucky.
But it means we're going to have plenty more to explore about what Loki's going to be doing through the TVA to try to get things right, because him and Sylvie now are separated. He's back at the TVA in a new realm, and Sylvie just killed He Who Remains. What's going to happen next? So we know we're going to see more, but we'll be back with expansion draft recap in the next episode. So back to hockey and Triple P. We'll see what happens in that. It could be a mess, and then we'll have NHL draft recap after the last round. So not war. I would say we'll just do the whole draft of an episode and have that to you over the weekend instead of doing each day. I think that makes sense, right, Matt?
I agree. I feel like we would just overanalyze ever living hell out of it. Also, stop mocking up that Seattle's taking Ryan Johansson or Matt Duchene without any other trade happening. Stop doing it. You're going to be pissed off with yourself.
And just want to say, too, folks, make sure you keep an eye on the Predators stream on Friday night. I will be joining at naturalpredators.com with Chris Mason and Willie Donick on doing some analyzation of the team and of round 1 of the NHL draft. So we're really looking forward to doing that. Yeah, look at me.
I didn't even know that. You just dropped that one there.
That's got the invite.
Exciting.
I'm excited. So they'll be on naturalpredators.com, and I'm sure they'll be streaming also on their YouTube channels and social media and everything like that. So make sure you follow us, Triple P Podcast _. He's at Best of Matt. I'm at Justin B. Bradford. And we'll talk to you next time with plenty of hockey to talk about. See who are the good picks by Seattle, who are the bad picks by Seattle, and who do we say bye-bye to from the Nashville Predators.
Yarncroke.
We'll see. Yarncroke or Sissons is my guess as well. All right. Until next time, this has been Triple P, Preds, Pucks, Pinoys. For Matt Betts and Justin Bradford, talk to you next time. Bye.
Bye.